The NBA is back, and so is James Harden and his unstoppable offensive game. 49 points in his first game back this season like it's nothing. He has perfected the art of scoring. At this point, he's borderline unguardable. Wait, did this man just... Is that even legal? Okay, hold up. How is this man getting all of this space every shot? How is he getting to the rim at will? This kind of looks like a travel. James Harden is the league's best bucket getter. He makes 40 bombs look like a walk in the park. Somehow, he makes the best defensive players in the league look like they have 2 left feet. The beard is nearly unstoppable on offense, but according to some NBA fans, it's because he's bending the rulebook. Is this true? And possibly an even better question, is this even a bad thing? Today's video is sponsored by Dope Locker. Dope Locker's got the freshest NBA gear in the game, including the most exclusive, best designed team shorts. I've been looking for a solid pair of these, and when Dope Locker reached out, I knew I had to get them. All logos are embroidered and stitched on 2 back zipper pockets and deep front pockets. These things are comfortable, high quality, and Dope Locker's got them at a price you can't beat. They were generous enough to send a jersey as well, so you already know I'm rocking the throwback Vince Carter. They are currently offering free 2 to 5 day shipping, so head over to Dope Locker and use promo code JXMY to get 5% off of any item today. The game of basketball has been around for a long time. Since 1891, goaltending was not a thing, there was no backboards, most games ended with a single point scored, and just dribbling the ball was against the rules. Yet here we are today 129 years later, and the game is still evolving thanks to players like James Harden. But Harden isn't the first player to bend the rulebook to favor his eccentric and shockingly effective game. Allen Iverson's crossover was so deadly that the NBA made referees enforce stricter rules on palming the ball. Charles Barkley was so effective in the post that the NBA created a rule to prevent players from backing down the defense for more than 5 seconds without shooting, passing, or picking up their dribble. Kevin Durant perfected the rip-through move to the point where the NBA had to create a rule specifically to prevent shooting fouls when a player does this. And then there's James Harden, who continues to create a frenzy among NBA fans with moves that you would swear were against the rules. Most NBA players struggle to score even 25 points a game, but somehow James Harden is putting up 40 like the NBA is some sort of rec league. Here is every NBA player with multiple 40+ point games this season. And here's James Harden. How is he this much better than everyone else at putting the ball in the hoop? He's got to be breaking some sort of rule or rules to pile up these ridiculous scoring totals. There's got to be a legitimate reason as to why no one else in the NBA is able to do the things James Harden is doing on the offensive end. Right? But if it's just a matter of bending or even breaking the rules, why isn't everyone else doing it? I want to begin by showing you a chart that may blow your mind. If you've ever played any sort of organized basketball, you know that arguably the most difficult possession to create offense out of is an ISO possession. This means you don't get any screens, you don't call a play to get the offense moving, you literally, by definition, do everything yourself. These are tough. Coaches hate these, and most fail to see the utility in such a possession. And that's because it takes a special talent that most teams don't have to pull off. It takes an extremely skilled purist to generate offense out of these situations. It takes James Harden. Here's a graph displaying the best ISO players in the NBA this season, with points generated in ISO plays on the y-axis and effective field goal percentage on the x-axis. Just to crack the top 20, you need to be an ISO specialist. Chris Paul produces about 2.7 points per game on ISO plays. Brandon Ingram is good for 3 points per game off of these plays. As you go up the chart, you'll see the league's most lethal scorers. Giannis, Kawhi, LeBron, Luka. Go even further and you reach the realm of ISO demigods. D'Lo, Lillard, and Westbrook. So, where's James Harden? Yeah. James Harden is so good at ISO situations that he is almost off the charts. producing 16 points per game just off of isolation possessions. This is absurd. It's borderline unbelievable. But this is the result of a player that has perfected the art of scoring. Just clear out and give him the ball. This is the result of a man that has found all the gaps in the rulebook and uses his uncanny skill and craftiness to finesse 35 points on whoever he wants, whenever he wants. But how exactly is James Harden so good at scoring? To what extent is he using lenient officiating and a flimsy rulebook to his advantage, and why can't anyone else seem to figure it out quite like him? Well, let's take a look at the receipts, move by move. Starting with his infamous arm hook, one of the first techniques Harden used to get an advantage on his opponents. Here, Harden uses a lack of space to get inside his defender's arm and rip through to draw contact as he's driving to the rim. This is very similar to the rip through move Kevin Durant would often use. Harden can now pull his arm through to draw a foul and disguise it as an act of shooting. But remember, there is a rule on rip-throughs to prevent players from doing this. But the rule states that if a player initiates contact before the shooting motion, it will be called as a non-shooting foul. Harden's move is so effective because unlike this move that is easy to sniff out as a flop, once Harden gets his arm under the defense, he can put up a shot at any point and it will be a shooting foul every single time. It's completely legal and incredibly effective. And according to some NBA fans, it's apparently too effective since Harden gets far too many calls compared to other NBA stars. But when you take a look at other all-time great perimeter players in their best scoring seasons, Harden's free throw attempts fit right in with the rest. In fact, both Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson attempted more free throws than James Harden has in their best 2 scoring seasons. Because getting to the line isn't some sort of gimmick, it's a skill. And James Harden is the best at it. Next, let's take a look at Harden's Euro step, a move popularized by Manu Ginobili but perfected by the Beard. We've all seen it 1,000 times. NBA players have seen it 1,000,000 times, and yet it works every time. But how? And is this particular variation of the move even legal? Well, Harden's Euro step is all in the timing. The distinction here is the precise moment Harden gathers the ball in relation to his steps. See, this is where he gets really creative with the rules. Harden is a scoring genius in that he knows exactly what he can and cannot do. At face value, this move looks like a travel. It's right there. 1, 2, 3 steps. But pay close attention to that first step. According to the rulebook, a player is allowed to have a 0 step, which is the step that is used while a player is gathering the ball. This step is the 0 step. Harden is still gathering the ball, so he still has 2 steps on his way to the basket. I know. It looks weird. According to everything we've been told, this should be a travel. But due to a shift in wording by the NBA and its rule on traveling, this is completely legal. And this is where many older NBA fans get frustrated with the officiating and the lack of violations being called in today's NBA. In 1995, this is a travel. Shoot, in 2005, this is a travel. But with the league shifting in favor of more offense, things like this are now not only allowed in the NBA, moves like this are praised. Which brings us to James Harden's patented step back, or in many cases, double step back. The move that has opened the floodgates to scoring outbursts by perimeter players. Guys that rarely ever used the move 5 years ago are now relying on step backs to create the majority of their shots. Need space on your jumper? No worries. Just take 7 steps, a hop, skip, and a jump back to the 3-point line and you've got all the space you need. At least, this is how a lot of fans see it. But similar to the 0 step Harden uses in his Euro step, the step back is all about the timing of the gather and when the 0 step is taken. Gather, 0 step, first step, second step. No travel. Do this on any court in the world outside of the NBA and you'll get flamed every single time. But again, the NBA is different. The league has really loosened up on its rules and James Harden takes full advantage of this. But he isn't even the first player to do this. As we spoke about before, some of the best players in NBA history manipulated and bent the rules to their advantage so much that the league had to create new rules just to slow them down. Michael Jordan was so crafty with his tactics that Jeff Van Gundy infamously called him a con man. The legacy of players that were so dominant that their greatness was taken as some sort of gimmick or unethical tactic has no shortage of all-time greats. In fact, here's a list of players that had rules created specifically to prevent them from abusing the rulebook at the time. From George Mikan to Wilt Chamberlain, all the way to players like Derek Harper and Reggie Miller. In some cases, the techniques these players were using were so effective that future generations adapted them and the rule wasn't put into place until after they retired. It takes a special talent to be so good at a particular facet of the game that the league is forced to slow them down with new rules. But what happens when a player is so crafty, so genius, and so creative in his scoring methods that he doesn't have to break the rules to break the record books? What happens when a player is such a wizard with the ball that there really is no way to hinder their greatness without compromising the game itself? Everything Harden does, from his arm hook to his step back, is fair game for every player in the league. Anyone can use these techniques, and sometimes they try. Here's Luka Doncic using Harden's double step back. Here's Kyrie Irving using the patented move. Here's Kawhi Leonard using the infamous arm hook. So all of these players are able and willing to use Harden's techniques to get buckets and generate offense, and yet none of them are averaging 35 points a game like him. Because contrary to popular belief, there is much more to Harden's game than flopping and rule bending. If there's anything we've learned over the last 5 seasons, it's that there's only one James Harden. Just like Kareem and his skyhook, it looks simple, it's so effective, and yet you see other players try it and fail time and time again. Not many players can do what Harden does because it's much more than just manipulating the rules of the game. His shooting, handle, decision-making, and overall skill set force the defense into bad positions and bad decisions that would not be necessary with other players. From this position, the average player may need a screen or some sort of off-ball action to set up the offense. But Harden is different. His incredible shooting ability forces the defense to guard him extremely close. Add that to the fact that if the defense isn't in his grill, one simple step back will create an open look from 3. The defense is forced to commit to the potential step back. So now that they're forced to play close, Harden can now use his handle to blow right past them. Which, even before he does this, the defense is already second guessing. If he backs up, Harden is going to use a step back. If he gets closer, Harden is going to use an array of techniques to get into the lane. So that's what he does. Now that he's inside, his excellent passing ability comes into play. The defense must commit to stopping Harden or stay with his man and leave the lane wide open for a layup. Even a great post defender is going to get abused at this point because of Harden's ability to finish through contact or find the open man with a crafty pass. And that's a bucket or assist 90% of the time. And it all started back here. No screens, no offensive schemes. Just a guy with the ball and a defender on a lonely, desolate island trying his absolute best to not get exposed. Does James Harden break the rules of basketball to get his buckets? No, he doesn't have to. When you are this good, this crafty, this elusive and versatile, you can shapeshift your way to 35 a night regardless of the rules. Because if the NBA adjusted their rules on the court to slow Harden down, he would just adapt, invent some new unguardable move, and get his 35 one way or another. Hope you all enjoyed, and as always, until next time.